Welcome to Healing the Podcast with your host, Ashlyn Torrey. I am a heels and burlesque instructor, a confidence mentor, and the creator of High Vibe Heels, living in the gorgeous mountains of Asheville, North Carolina. In this safe and sacred portal, we will be having intentional conversations about dancing in a heel, spirituality, self-love, sensuality, conscious business, and even more juicy topics that I hope empower you to show up in the world as your boldest and brightest self. I am so excited to go on this journey with you. Now let the magic begin. Hello, my angels, and welcome back to Healing the Podcast. I am so grateful to have you here today and to be sharing this amazing episode with a guest that I have dreamed about having on the podcast ever since I started it. It's a huge manifestation, truly. And I feel like a lot of the things that I've been manifesting lately are coming to fruition, which is amazing and crazy and beautiful, but also it's a lot. And as you will hear in this podcast with Camille, I have just been going through it mentally and emotionally since I got back from Miami. And not only is it eclipse season, and not only is Mercury in retrograde, but I also just entered my Saturn return. So this time feels very important and also overwhelming. But Camille gave me incredible perspective and took some of the pressure off to fix and change everything that's shifting right now internally, which was so helpful for my Capricorn self. And if you feel like you're in the same boat, overwhelmed, or you feel like your inner landscape is asking you to shift and acknowledge some things that maybe you've been ignoring, this is your sign to slow down, to listen to yourself, to get clear on what you want and what you need, and to take that small aligned action to get there. And with that being said, today on the podcast, I have Camille Craft of Vital Mystic on to chat all things esoteric. We talk about the importance of ritual, how to harness the power of the lunar phases, the keys to having a successful, soulful business, Saturn returns, and much more. Camille is here on a sacred mission to empower, inspire, support, and activate the journey of returning home to oneself, embodied, awakened, and free. She walks in deep devotion to the mystical and healing arts, combining her myriad passions, including multidimensional wellness, Astro herbalism, tarot, the art of ritual, and holistic nutrition to create unique and accessible offerings that facilitate integrative healing on all levels. A dedicated student and keeper of the esoteric arts, Camille expertly weaves ancient and timeless wisdom with advanced scientific knowledge, generously sharing pathways for the balancing and restoration to wholeness with all whose path she crosses. Isn't she just incredible? Oh my goodness. I have followed Camille for a few years now, and everything from her ritual baths to her full moon ceremonies to her business tips are just 10 out of 10. You babes are going to love this conversation so much. And without further ado, let's dive right into it. Camille, welcome to the podcast. I'm so grateful and excited to have you.
Yay. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
So I would love to just start with some rapid fire questions that I have every guest answer, just for the listeners to get an idea of who you are and kind of where you're coming from. So how old are you and where are you in the world right now?
I am 35 and right now I am visiting my home in Sonoma County. I don't live here, but this is where I'm from. So it's really sweet to be recording this right now.
Oh, that's amazing. And where are you living currently?
I live in Northern California in a little tiny town that's called Arcata. So,
cool.
yeah.
Beautiful. And what is currently lighting you up right now? And this can be like any area of your life.
I would say just really helping women with their businesses. I know that's it's just like, I just launched this program right now, and it's just been such an amazing thing to offer up all of this wisdom and support and all these things as women really step into their power. And I know that's totally work related, but that's the thing that's lighting me up right now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I totally understand. I feel like my work is constantly lighting me up, and it's like hard to not feel that way when you're so passionate about it. So that's amazing.
Right. Yeah.
And what is your sun, moon, and rising in astrology? And how do you feel like they impact or resonate with your life?
Yeah. So I'm a triple air. My sun and moon are both in Libra. So I was born on a new moon, and then my rising is Aquarius. And my sun and moon are in the eighth house, which if you know astrology, it's in Scorpio.
Mhm.
So for me, it all makes so much sense. I'm really big on beauty and creating, beautiful sanctuaries and things like that. But there's a deeper essence there for transformation and power and rebirth and really healing ourselves as well. So I definitely know my sun and moon are super potent in the work that I do. And Aquarius, I feel, is just my visionary concept, my ability to see through things and really allow for that like new vision come into this Aquarian time.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's beautiful. It definitely resonates through you and all the work that you do. And
Mhm.
what's a song that you can't stop dancing or moving to right now or listening to in general?
Yeah, there's a few of them, but like the first thing that comes to mind is Stay by PLUM. It's just like this ongoing, it's probably from like all of my like Instagram stuff, but it's just this ongoing thing in the back of my mind that I'm like, all right, that's like it's so inspirational, you know? It's like
Yeah.
I love words too, but just that song just makes me feel like, all right, it's everything's gonna be good, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And this podcast is called Healing. So I would love to know what is something that you are proud of healing or you are currently in process of healing.
Um, That's a really wonderful question. Right now, I am really proud. I guess the first thing that comes up for me is just my own, right? Like, as we were recording this 12 years ago, my younger brother passed away, and it's spun
Mhm.
me out on this direction that I am right now and doing the work that I am doing. So, right now in this moment, I am super grateful for healing that memory or healing that experience and moving through grief and really seeing how our own journey with grief can really come up and serve and really help other people move through those bigger life things as well.
Wow, that's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry that you went through that. And it's also like helping, like you said, so many people through your experience and through your messaging and stuff like that. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's dive into the esoteric arts, rituals, astro herbalism. That is what you are known for. I came across
Mhm.
your videos on Instagram probably like a year and a half ago. Of course, everyone knows that I love like ritual baths. I love filling my tubs with flowers and crystals. And so someone had sent this to me and they were like, you are going to love this, girl. And they were right. I did. Obsessed. I have so many of your Instagram videos pinned, like, okay, I need to try this. I need to try this. And so I would love to know how you got started in the esoteric arts and then eventually into creating this beautifully witchy community online. Like, were you always a kid who loved all things mystical and nature, or did this like evolve later in your life?
Yes. I mean, I was always that kid. I was always that kid that was like buried in books, not very social, just like really into like learning about things. And astrology actually first entered my life through my grandmother. She was an astrologer and she like drove a gold bug and like lived in Marin and was just like the super hippie, like got her master's degree in art, from San Francisco, somewhere, in San Francisco. And back in like the 70s and 80s when it wasn't really common for women to do that. But when I was born, she mapped out and like hand wrote my chart. And so I actually didn't find that till many years later. But when I would hang out with her in her studio when I was really young, she kind of like just kind of, like put little things in my space or like my birthday is 3 days from her birthday. So we were both Libras. So she would just like, she knew. And so to hand write a chart back then in the 80s, like we didn't have any computers, we didn't have anything. So the ability, she got down to the degrees and like, all of the things all right. And it was such a beautiful thing to find. And I opened it up and found it in one of her old books when I got a little bit older. But ultimately, that's kind of how that like magical part kind of started. I mean, I was always obsessed with, mystical, magical things when I was younger. And then I think when I was in sixth grade, I got my hands on a spell book and I was like, oh, you can use the earth and all this magic to like create what you want. And I just took off with it. And I came from a super traditional family that was just like really not okay with pentacles and all of those things. So definitely like parents were not super into it at all. But I always just like kept this like little hidden gem inside of me. And along that time, I also was like, well, I know I'm here to help people, right? I knew from a young age I was here to help people. And for me, I guess in a traditional family, I then started to, it translated for me as being a doctor. And so I committed to that path and just like got a pre-medical degree, all of the things. And then my younger brother passed away. And that's when the ritual started to kind of come back, because it was a way of really honoring him. And my first rituals, after many years of kind of like not really doing it, I was still kind of into astrology, but I never was like, oh, you can make a career out of this, you know? When he passed away, my first rituals were to honor his passing and his grief. And you know, like I collected some of the we lived in the space in Sonoma County, or we're from Sonoma County, and I collected adobe clay and like created a paint out of it. And I just was able to really honor him with all of these different elementals that were around. And it just kind of came through with that process. And that's actually how this whole business and these creations really evolved, was just through my journey with grief, and to really kind of tap back into that magic and tap back in and learning how to communicate with him, learning how to communicate with my ancestors, and really finding that deeper meaning of life. So it's definitely been like a journey of walking myself home, and feel super blessed to be able to be where I'm at today.
Isn't it amazing how like we have these like little nuggets when we're kids? And like, it's so fascinating that you said your grandmother, because my grandmother was that for me. She was this like spiritual witchy woman that my family didn't really understand. And she like left those little things for me along the way. Like even I was in Florida this weekend visiting my uncle, and he had a spiritual painting that someone had done of her. Like, I don't even know when, maybe like the 80s or 90s. And I was just like, wow, like this is literally here for me to see this in this moment. Mm-hmm. Like, this is why this painting is here. So I love that you have that from your ancestry, and that you're like able to find it again, because I feel like so many people have these like little things that happen when they're younger, and then they do forget it. They become the doctor, they become, you know, the lawyer, and they leave those pieces of themselves behind. And so you're teaching people like how to come back to themselves, which is like such important work, especially right now, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I feel like there's always little clues for everybody.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like there's always little clues, and it's not either or. It's yes and, right? Yes. We can be that and this, you know what I mean? We don't have to keep it separate. We can weave it together. And I love that. That's why I love that story. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so, so true. And I think it's just like allowing ourselves to have that dynamic going on, that like two things can be true at the same time, because I think we've been like taught this all or nothing mentality in the society. Right. And so being able to kind of like embrace, you know, those pieces of us when we were younger, and this like different version of ourselves now, it's just, yeah, it's really important work. It's that like divine masculine, feminine balance that I feel like a lot of us are coming back to.
Definitely.
So the thing that drew me to your Instagram, like I said, was the ritual circles that you do and the baths. Like, I'm not joking. They're the most beautiful I've ever seen. And you can tell that so much intention and love really goes into these ceremonies that you have. So why do you think that ritual is so powerful and important? And how can babes listening start incorporating rituals into their routine in a small way and then grow it over time?
I love this question. So ritual, when we come back to the root of the word, it's just a repetitive process that you come back to again and again and again, right? And so maybe we can say brushing our teeth is a ritual, or, you know, combing our hair is a ritual. And ultimately, when we come in with this space of intention, we're coming in with that space that we are tending to our worth. And as you know, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but currently in this society, we live in a society that profits off our worthlessness, right? We're told from the very beginning that we're not good enough, that we need to look a certain way, that we need to act a certain way. And we put on all these masks, right? And we actually kind of lose ourselves in the process. And I feel that ritual is that homecoming. It's that homecoming to you. Doesn't matter what it looks like, doesn't matter what other people are saying, like you tending to that essence and authenticity of who you truly are, and that space of value and how you value yourself. And I think that if anything, we need more people who value themselves, value their work, value their power, because when we value ourselves, we come up and we can, you know, share that value with other people, right? We show up in different ways. We, you know, are kind of more embodied in our power and our purpose. And just by being in that space of power and purpose and embodiment, we create the ripple effect of change that we really want to see in this world, because we're not going to be doing it disempowered. We're not going to be doing it with all of these masks on that we were taught to put on. we're going to do it from that straight, authentic version of ourselves that is here to impact certain people, right? And so ritual is tending to that power. It is tending to that ability to really kind of see through the veils, see through the kind of like little like shadows or things that the society has told us to be, or perceptions or beliefs or programs or whatever we want to call it. And to really kind of pull out that gold thread, that deepest power of who you are, and allow for it to expand. So ritual is tending to that primal force of who you are, and that power and that purpose and that drive, and the magic and essence that you uniquely are, and you came here to shine in the world. And I do believe that every single person has a unique purpose, has unique power, has a unique, path to walk in this lifetime. And we need more people who are authentic and want to be in that space, because that's going to bring in an even higher level of change and transition as we move forward as a community, as a collective, and so forth. And really, to be that ripple effect of change that we want to see. So I see ritual as that. I see ritual as that tending to and commitment to that power, whether big or small, however it looks for you, but it's tending to, it's that beautiful keeping it on the pulse of your own power and what you came here to do in this world.
I love that. And I've never heard anyone describe ritual like that, but that's truly the essence of it. And I think, of course, like I love doing rituals because I feel like it slows me down and it like allows me to connect with nature, but it's also a much bigger thing as well. It's also like this really big impact that we're having on ourselves and also the collective. And I really love that how you described that. That was so beautiful. And what do you feel like the essential ingredients are for rituals, like physical or energetic ingredients?
For sure, by far, it's going to be your intention. Your intention is by far the most important ingredient. Your presence, your intention, the way that, like you said, like this is a time that I connect with nature, right? What is in nature and the power that's in nature, the energies that is in nature is inherently in you, And so I think that your intention and that presence is by far the most important thing. And then the second thing is, for just like even energetic is, your own personal boundaries, that's you just showing up in ritual. You're like, I'm taking a boundary, right? I'm taking in this space to connect with something deeper that is calling me. That might not be like every single daily tasks or what it is, or what we think actually moves the needle, quote unquote. But when we tend to that inner fire, that power energetically, we set that boundary and we say, and that actually tells our psychology that I'm going to set a boundary that I'm worth it, right? I'm worth my time. I'm worth my intention. I'm worth this time of slowing down in this extremely fast-paced, society that we live in. And I'm going to actually, be the one in control here. I'm going to be the one who's going to say, this is my tempo and this is how I'm going to choose to move into the world. I'm not coming from a narrative that says I have to do, be. I'm going to tend to that space. For actual, physical ingredients, I love to obviously, my Instagram, I love to include flowers. I love to include salt. Like, I feel like salt is such a powerful thing. And salt, if you're not familiar with ritual, you can use it as a base. You can trace symbols into it. Salt, as we know, when you take a salt bath, you feel your energy is super cleared, right? So utilize salt. And then the second thing that I really love to have people use in ritual is candle, is fire magic, and obviously we like to bring in all of the elements, and hopefully you're grounding that in your rituals as well. But those things are really important because that candle represents your light and your magic. And then also salt is such a beautiful space to clear our energy and create that boundary that we need as well.
And I haven't really worked with salt much. So I love that you bring that up. I'm a big candle, crystal, and flower person in my rituals. But I love that because that's another element that you can add. And I love what you mentioned about it being like about tending to your self-worth. A lot of the things that I hear on Instagram, like if I post a ritual bath or if I post something, is how do you have time for that? And I'm like, oh, I have to make time for this because it's so important for me. And something that I like to do is, instead of just making it an expectation like every week or, multiple times a week, I like to connect with specifically the new moon and the full moon. And they're obviously a very powerful time for rituals. So what are your favorite ways to harness the individual power of maybe each phase? Or is there like a specific time that you like to do your rituals? How do you kind of plan those out?
Right. So the new and full moon days are always my busiest days in my work, which is so sweet, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I've been really working with not really planting specific intentions like, oh, I want to reach these goals or these numbers or these things, right? And I just have been really working with the cycles of whatever is my highest, most optimal path. I want to go, like, my mind might not even know what my highest, most optimal path is. Like, maybe I think like of, a 6-figure like month or like a new partner or whatever it is. But like, ultimately, my soul, my intuition knows what's best. Right. So for the new moons, I really love to work with these intentions of I'm like every new moon, I'm realigning with that path, right? Whatever wants to come forward. Obviously, every new moon has different themes based on the astrology and so forth and where it's hitting in your specific chart. But, overall, and this is what I weave into a lot of my rituals, is that we want to really release our expectations, one, and two, we want to release our attachments. That is the quickest way to quantum leap anything, right? And the more that you can just allow for the energy to support you where you were actually already meant to go, the more that you can just release and allow for that. And so with the full moons, there's the second part of that, which is just kind of like now, if I set intentions and I just want to align with my highest, most optimal path, the second part of that is what are the things that are coming up? Now that I've said I'm going to align with that, what are those things that have come up in those last 2 weeks that are kind of like my old self-sabotage or the ways that I resist or the ways that I stagnate because of fear? And so full moons are really there for us to kind of get clear, illuminate, right? The full moons illuminate everything, our psychology, everything that's going on inside of us. And it helps us transcend and it helps us release and allow for ourselves to make space for that growth. Right. And so we come into this beautiful cycle. There's a third part to the phase two that a lot of people don't talk about, but it's the dark moon. And the dark moon is actually the last couple days of a moon cycle right before the new moon. And it is the most powerful time to do release work. At this point in my particular rituals, I just really focus on release. And a lot of my higher practitioner students focus on release as well, because ultimately there is nothing wrong with your manifestation. You inherently are already worthy. You're already powerful. You're already having all of the success desires that you want. But it's all of the programming and the stuff and the trauma and the beliefs and the things that are standing in the way that just say or have us keep choosing the toxic cycles that kind of get in the way of that work in resistance to it. So ultimately, the dark moon is such a powerful time to clear that path because it's right before you set those new moon intentions and allow for yourself to move in those new directions and quantum leap your personal life.
That's so fascinating. I didn't know about the dark moon, so I love that. And I feel like that's really important because to me, any type of manifestation work with myself or with my clients, that's always the thing. It's not that like, oh, maybe we're working on our self-worth. Maybe that's great right now. Maybe we're feeling really confident. Maybe we're feeling like, oh, I deserve this. But it's like there are all these other things that we're still holding on to that are kind of keeping us from that next level, that quantum leap, whatever it is. And so I love that because that's such a powerful time to like connect to that mission of just releasing whatever doesn't serve us anymore. And I love having like specific times of the month where you can just like have a particular focus, because I feel like so many people, they see, rituals or they see these things and they just feel very overwhelmed and they don't really know where to start. And I feel like this little layout that you gave is like, okay, this is where to start if you need this, or this is where to start if you need this. And also just staying consistent with it, because consistency with rituals has been the most powerful way for me to up level and really feel that connection to myself consistently, like I said, without feeling overwhelmed or feeling like I'm not doing enough,
Right. And it gets to be simple. It doesn't have to be, obviously we love the beautiful
We love
things and the
it.
big maps and all of the things. And like, of course, I'm
Yeah.
going to go extra and over the top for everybody, but
Yeah.
but it can be super simple. It can just be writing down and burning a piece of paper. As long as your intention is there and present, like like you said, consistency is where you're going to see the most results. And that's the thing, is that's the most beautiful part about ritual, is that it is supposed to be consistent. Like you are here tending to that power. And the analogy that I like to use for ritual is that, ritual is like tending to a fire, right? Your fire of your power, your, how you want to move and create in this life and so forth. And so the more that you can tend to it that fire is going to grow bigger, and it's going to nurture not only you, but the people around you, right? It's going to be a bigger light for everybody else to be impacted, your family, your friends, your community, whatever it is. So the more that you can tend to that fire, the brighter light you can shine, and the more that you can help other people be impacted by that as well.
Yeah, that's so true. We have to like constantly be reminding ourselves of that, because I feel like we get so caught up, taking care of everyone else, especially as women. And so
Yes.
it's really important to keep coming back to that concept of like, I need to be constantly tending to my fire before I can like give to everyone else.
Right. Yeah. We want overflow, not
Yes.
giving from an empty cup. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of women listening are working on embodying more confidence, sensuality, and self-love into their lives. That's kind of the focus of my work. So do you have a specific practice or ingredients or intention that you would include in a ritual to focus on these specific topics?
Yeah, I think that with the spiritual communities, we have been taught that our intentions or, astrology or all of those things are outside of us, right?
Mhm.
But really, the biggest thing for you anytime in ritual, whenever you tend, is to actually get into your body. And your body is a sacred vessel. It is a beautiful antenna to your intentions. The way that you're holding in your body, the way that your nervous system is balanced or dysregulated, that's going to signal to the universe whether or not you're ready to fully receive. So there's something in ritual that I really would love for people to do, and that is ground into your body. Like in my rituals, I like to include tapping, or I'll have people get up and shake it out, or, whatever it is that you need to do to get into your body and make sure you're out of your head, where we all spend so much time, but getting into your body and allowing for yourself to feel, right? Feeling into that space, allowing for yourself to visualize and feel and move into that presence, because that sense of self-love, that success, all those things, they're inside of you. They're not outside. They're not outside in a perfect bank account or a perfect relationship or a perfect situation. We think, and the mind tricks us that we need those things for validation, but actually you can claim that self-love and self-worth right in this moment. And you can choose by really loving yourself, embodying within that space of your physical presence, and really allowing for the body to be nourished and to be taken care of, because it all starts with energetics, and it all starts with us loving ourselves and being in that space. I'm going to choose to love myself right now. I'm going to choose to love myself as I am. And I'm going to allow for myself to really just celebrate my body, where I'm at, what I've overcome, all the things that I've transcended, and to really place ourselves in that space of alignment already.
I was just nodding the whole time. I was like, yes, 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 because this is so important. And I think it gets left out a lot in spiritual conversations, is dropping out of the head and getting into the body. Tapping, this community knows I do it every day. I can't live without it. It's so important. I feel like it instantly shifts my energy. And then dance, of course, like moving our bodies, shaking it out, like it allows us to kind of release the things that are like on the exterior, so we can really get deeper. And so I love that that's part of your ritual practice, because to me, that was the game changer. Like I was really in my head at the beginning of my spiritual journey and trying to process everything mentally and, doing all the work kind of up in the clouds. And so when I brought it down into my body and I grounded, that's when things really started to shift. So I love that that's how you feel too, because I think it's so important for people to connect the two pieces together, because we have to connect them. Otherwise, something's going to feel off and we're never going to reach that next level.
100%. And it's like, you have to feel safe in your body if you are actually going to expand. Like real expansion and real alignment is, you have to feel safe and grounded in your body. You will only rise as high as you're willing to root deep. And that is ultimately what I feel. And I know that you feel that too. It's just, if we really want that space of expansion, if we really want to change, we have to utilize the body, because the body stores all our trauma and our nervous systems and everything like that. So we really have to balance that first. And then we're able to even hold or embody more energy that is inherently ours already.
It's so true. And like when I was going through kind of the beginning of my spiritual journey, I had this severe back injury and I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't figure out where it came from. And it's also hereditary. So my mom had it, her mom had it, and it was just trauma. And once I released it through my body, I no longer had back pain. And it's like, it sounds crazy, but it's so true. Like we have to be able to, I did a lot of like sacral work and root chakra work and just really like focusing on the the pain just leaving that area of my body. And then I would do some exercises and yoga, and it works. And that's how connected they are. They are so connected. And like you said, that feeling of safety, a lot of it was because I didn't feel safe in my root. So I was just always like, the pain was just traveling up to there, past my sacral. And so it's just fascinating when you really start to like pay attention to your body's cues. Like it's giving you all the messages that you need. You just have to listen to them.
Yeah. And it's part of the astrology right now of like our generation is Pluto and Scorpio. So we are actually meant to really move through a lot of generational trauma and transmute a lot of things. So, it's really powerful for us to like hold that space. And I love that you share that story, because I'm just like, oh, it's so in alignment with our generational stuff, So
yeah, exactly. And it's crazy. It's like, I keep learning things that I'm moving through, that my mom moved through, and that my grandmother moved through. And they were never really able to figure it out. Like I have journals from my grandmother, and she was always trying to figure it out. And she could never, because she was very much not in her body at all. She was really trying to like mentally process it. Same with my mom, always having like health issues, autoimmune, back stuff going on all the time. And I was the first one to be like, wait, maybe we should like do something different and move our bodies. But yeah, I love that you say that that's also in the astrology as well, because I mean, just talking to friends and people that I love, it seems to be the theme, that we're moving through 100%. So much that our ancestors maybe weren't able to fully process.
100%. And it also wasn't like back then, it wasn't like we didn't have as many tools either. It wasn't safe to be in your body as a woman, and so we're learning that embodiment,
Yeah. Gosh, we are so like blessed to have the amount of information and resources, because it's like, it's just incredible. You can literally go on YouTube or Instagram and find really any of these resources that you want. It's just incredible. I always feel so grateful.
Definitely.
My loves, let's pause for a moment. I have a question for you. What if you could completely transform your dancing and your life in just 90 days? What if you had the confidence to finally go after the things that you desire, to manifest all that you have ever wanted, to step into your highest expression of self, all simply by dancing in a heel? I'm so excited to share that my signature Heels and Burlesque program, Confidence, the Heels Method, is officially open for enrollment. CHM is a 90-day program that will not only build your dance technique from the ground up and teach you how to be confident AF on the dance floor, but it also gives you the tools to tap deeper into your limiting beliefs, get to the root of what's holding you back through spiritual tools and one-to-one guidance with myself, and finally live the life you are meant to. What if you could live without the fear of pleasing others? What if you could stop comparing yourself to other dancers? What if you didn't hate your body? What if you didn't live in a place of scarcity and uncertainty? What if you could finally take control? CHM includes 12 weeks of confidence, healing, spirituality, burlesque, and heels curriculum, weekly mentor calls with me, as well as 6 live group workshops, exclusive dance choreo and technique classes only for CHM students, access to the CHM community, and a magical care package with all the tools that you need to thrive in this experience. Every single woman who has enrolled in this program will tell you that it completely changed her life. I have watched babes quit their jobs, manifest homes and partnership, begin their career in burlesque, and ultimately stop worrying about what everyone else wants for them and truly embodying their most confident self. To grab a spot on the wait list, just click the link below in the show notes. I would love to see you in this next round. And I saw on your website that Astro herbalism is something that you combine into your work, which I'm really intrigued about because I'm not sure that I've heard of this concept much. So I would love if you could give the listeners a brief overview of what Astro herbalism is and the benefits of it.
Yeah. So basically, Astro herbalism was created in alignment with astrology. And so what happened was that when astrology was created, by Greek philosophers and so forth, way back when, and maybe even predates that. But ultimately, they started to kind of look around and started to see that, these planets and their archetypes and their energies and understanding all of those different signs and so forth actually reflected in certain elements or, plants, the way that they grew or affected the body, things along those lines that we have here on the planet as well. And so astro herbalism links plants to certain actions in the body that are also ruled and impacted by different planetary bodies. So, if like a Mars ruled plant or a Sun ruled plant is there and it activates in the body in a certain way, and it helps, different body systems that are also ruled by that. So we start to kind of see the symbology of an action in a plant. And this is very linked to like how people as well use it in ritual, because an action of a plant in the body will very likely mimic the action it has in ritual or energetically as well. So we start to think about, let's just say John's wort. St. John's wort is ruled by the sun, and it's there to actually help you. If you know how to make an oil from St. John's wort, that oil is really protective against burns. But it's also, when you ingest St. John's wort, it's been used for like mood elevation, right? So if you think about the sun, like what is the sun there to do? It's like, oh, it's brightening, like it's brightening my mood. It's brightening my ability to open up my mind. And therefore, just kind of seeing all these symbology, little actions and things. And so astro herbalism is really understanding that link between the macrocosm and the microcosm. And I feel like my ritual started to be really effective when, one, I included shadow work. And then two was when I started to match, and this is actually how I created my product line, what was happening in the sky to the herbs that was in alignment with that particular astrology transit. And so what it does is it acts as an anchor, and it anchors in, what's happening in the sky, the, energy or so forth, the macrocosm into the micro, and it will potentize your rituals because you're in alignment. You're using those physical correspondence that will help your intention ground into physical reality as well, because the plants do that, right? When plants are still growing, they're very much, energetic, but they are also, physical beings as well, so it's like being able to understand that synergy between all of those things and being able to weave it into your rituals helps you connect from it's just an intention or energy, but into an actual physical reality experience as well.
That is so cool. It's amazing just how everything is so like intertwined and connected, but I'm so excited to check out your product line now, because I feel like that could just take my ritual to the next level, like really being able to like enhance the energies. And what type of products do you have? Is it just like, are they ingestible? Is it just like to be used in ritual? Like, how does that work for your product line?
Yeah, my product line originally was tinctures, which now it's totally come very far from there. But mostly I focus on candles or candle blends,
Cool.
and then also infused oils. Like I've infused, they're like when you're infusing a certain selection of herbs with ritual underneath an astrological alignment, that's called an election. And what that is that it helps ground and anchor the energies of the macrocosm, like I said, kind of in the description before, into this micro, like oil or, candle type of, like mixture or whatever it is. And you activate those herbs through that ritual and that election ritual. But ultimately for my particular product line, I mean, candles I find are definitely the most effective, I feel. I also do sprays, like room sprays. I have like a clearing spray that I really love to use. And then also, like I said, body oils, but if like I teach ritual and I have a bunch of courses on how to even make elections yourself, but the oils really, it's called embodiment pieces. And this is something that I really love for people to include in their rituals, because I think that it just takes your intentions a step further. But you can just add a little bit of body oil to your ritual setups or whatever it is, or maybe some water, kind of like the essence or the idea of making moon water, but you put it there and then you reuse that body oil as the vibration that is holding your intention. And then when you put it on your body and you're putting that space, that those energetic frequencies into your body with the physical aspect, an embodiment piece, then you're learning to physically embody that energy. And that's something that I kind of discovered. And I used to made scrubs and oils and all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, mostly now I kind of teach people how to do it themselves, because I think that it's just, not everyone can always like afford this glass bottle with a bunch of stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather give people the tools that they need to learn how to do it themselves. And that's a huge part for me. That is just super empowering.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Wow, I am so excited to go shopping after this talk, because that sounds beautiful and thoughtful and intentional. And like little things like that to me just enhance the overall experience of the ritual. I mean, just like having every kind of detail really thought out, to me, it like increases the effects so much that I get from the ritual. Besides, if I just kind of like throw it together and it's kind of rushed and I'm not really in it, it has a different result, right? But when you take the time to include all of these little elements, especially something as powerful as like the candles that you're talking about and the oil, it will change the way that you feel after and the effects that you have from it for sure.
Oh, life-changing. Yeah. If you want to know how to really increase the potency of your rituals and have them, that's like ultimately, that's my number one tip is like, the more that you can do that or have that, or even, I'm not a super, like, I'm very picky with like energetic products that I buy from, because the practitioner and the people who are making it, their energy will go into it, unless they're super clear and they're really, adamant with their own personal boundaries around that energetic work. But yeah, if you can, just like taking, obviously your intention is always the most important, but it will help potentize your rituals 100%. Yeah.
That's amazing. And from what I see on your Instagram, and like you said, you have a course on business, you're pretty much a business goddess. So what are your tips for building a six-figure business and creating the financial stability that so many people listening desire? Because especially a lot of the babes listening have creative businesses. They have businesses that are passion driven. And I feel like there's this narrative that you can't have both, And so I really want to like bust that myth.
Right. There are 8-9 billion people in the world now. Like there is plenty of people in the world to buy whatever you're offering. I just want to start out with that. And then the second thing is, I work specifically with 3 factors in my business. And the first is strategy, which there's a lot of strategy out there, but the second thing that obviously we're talking about, which is energetics. And it's really important for you to have very clear energy in your business. And it's not just like, I'm just going to do like my intentions and be clear with what I want. I mean, like we have to really clear like the way that we were programmed, the way that we think, the experiences in our life. We have to involve a lot of shadow work in our business so that we can feel safe even showing up and being able to advocate for ourselves and our growth, right? If we don't feel safe in our body and we have experiences or we have, lack mentality or, even just like trauma from childhood about money or our self-worth or showing up or being seen or using our voice, it will impact our business. And that's the part where the energetics come in. And I feel like that's a part that's really lacking for a lot of people, because we can have the perfect branding, we can have the perfect, strategy, the perfect website, but no one's buying, right? And so this is something that I really work on with people a lot. It's just like really like moving through the different programs, like, oh, maybe I don't actually believe I can be successful. Or maybe I believe that when I am actually successful, I'm going to lose everything that I love, right? Or I can't tell those same stories that I've been telling myself, that we do it in very sneaky ways. So we need that energetic portion, that rebalancing of the nervous system, feeling safe in our body, like subconscious reprogramming. So we stop limiting ourselves and we allow for ourselves to lean in and expand. And then the third part that I really like to bring in is astrological timing. Every single person needs to know their birth chart and how that impacts their business. When I have my clients launch at a certain time or when they bring on products, I have them follow a specific calendar that's in alignment with their particular business and their personal chart. So there are certain times in your chart that you should be launching. And there's actually some times in your chart that you need to be focusing on release work. And that's illuminated by the moon cycle every single month. You move through 12 different houses, and then the sun moves through all of those houses once a year for a month, right? So it brings up these different themes, and you start to realize that your business is a cycle. It is not this constant drive, have to push, but it's like there's a balance of masculine and feminine. Right. There's a balance of this reciprocity, and that's what ultimately is needed. But like your business is the perfect conduit that's going to show you exactly where you need to heal and transform and what beliefs that you need to deprogram yourself from, because that's going to show you again and again and again until you're ready to really look at it and just say, no, I'm more powerful than this. I'm going to sink deeper into myself. I'm going to remove this energy. I'm going to transform it. I'm going to transcend it. And I'm going to allow myself to continue to show up. Right. And that's another thing that I see big for entrepreneurs is that we get caught in the gap of, oh, like my intentions, and I see it and I feel it, but it's not happening right now. That's actually the moment that you need to lean in even more and not back off, but lean in with your energy, lean in with your ability to show up. And it's going to feel scary and it's going to feel big, but that's where the universe is inviting you because you're moving through a threshold of comfortability. And so you're allowing for yourself to transcend. And in that space of expansion, we will only quantum leap if we are ready, and open for disappointment. Right. So if you allow for yourself to surprise yourself and lean in, you're going to inevitably create success. It's already yours. That's what it is. You just have to allow yourself to move in those new ways and to really surprise yourself with what you can do.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. And it's also very helpful for me too. I just went full-time in my business like almost a year ago. So obviously
congratulations.
Thank you. The process is very new. And the first year, I feel like it's like so many different things are happening and you're like, why isn't this working? Why is this working? This doesn't make sense either. It's like, it's so much going on. And I love that you say connecting it to your chart. First of all, that's a game changer. I can't wait to do that because I really have just been, throwing things at the wall for the most part. And I feel like most people do kind of at the beginning, just
100%, 100%. Yeah.
It's kind of like a free for all, especially on social media. And so I love that so much. And also, like you said, it's not just about the tactics. It's not just about like the social media algorithms. It's about like, why aren't you connecting with your audience? There's something else going on internally that you need to like be honest with yourself, take a look at it, adjust. So I think that's really important. And I think that will redirect anyone listening who has a business in mind, or you already have a business, kind of redirect where you're putting your focus, because I think especially if your business is kind of focused on you being front and center in any way, or if you're creating a product, like your energy is going into everything that you do. So if your energy's off, or if you're not like releasing things and stuff like that, it's going to show in everything.
100%. Yeah. Everything, like my sales would stagnate every time that I knew I needed to sit with something. So anytime that my sales slowed down, I took that as a signal, like, all right, there's some release work that I need to do right now, because I'm coming up against like this invisible layer of like what I've never been past before. And so I need to do release work. And then it's like that release work would give me that, strength or courageousness to lean in and show up and do the Instagram lives or do things that I wasn't, comfortable doing, and you're coming from a girl that like literally would shake like a chihuahua before she got onto Instagram live 2 years ago, Yeah. So it's like, it is possible for you. You can feel safe. You can feel safe to go big and show up, but you just got to clear like why it doesn't feel safe in the body to do that. Yeah.
That's so important. I love that so much. And because we've been talking so much about astrology, I have a question that is funny because I just realized that I entered my Saturn return like a few weeks ago. And I felt it so much last week that I was like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? And I didn't realize. And I had all my friends who are like in their 30s. They're like, babe, are you sure like that your Saturn return hasn't like started or something? And I'm like, no. Like I'm 27. Like I thought it was 29, And I realized I went on my astrology app and I was like, oh my God, are you serious? Like I feel like my whole internal being has been flipped upside down within the last 2 weeks. So I'm curious if you have any advice for me or anyone else listening going through their Saturn return, because I was kind of like, the last few years have been really hard for me and for my family. My husband lost his sister. So as you know, that's like a huge thing to be moving through. And then I've lost some family as well. So I was like, oh no, we've been through so much in the last few years. Like my Saturn return is going to be a piece of cake. And then, it was like, hello, not the case. So I'm just curious if you have any advice for that or any rituals I could be doing to ground me during this crazy time.
Yeah, it's so funny because I had the same exact mentality when I went into my Saturn return, and I was like, no, I already like went through some crazy stuff. Like I already I'm good. Now I'm like tapped into my intuition. And that's actually when I got one of my biggest universal smackdowns. And like, that's just like, if I like look back on it and I'm just like, I was like, and for a while, it just was like, oh, this isn't really, like, I remember in my head thinking like, this isn't really affecting me, like, da-da. And then I just like went through a major loss. I was like, whoa. So the first thing that I want to say is that the Saturn return is there to really reconnect you to your true destiny, like your true legacy that you are here to build, to create, to become, and all of those things. So if you have to give yourself some extra time and space to go through that stuff, it's okay. Don't go into the narrative of like, oh, I have to have it all figured out. I really carried that narrative for a long time and like, oh, I have to be perfect in order to show up in these spaces, or like, how can I start holding women's circles if I haven't figured my life out? And honestly, nobody's got it figured out. You know what I mean? We just become more comfortable being able to move through that, because the Saturn return will lead you back to your true identity, like that bigger purpose. And that universal smackdown that happened for me was, one, I didn't fully listen to my intuition and I moved forward anyways. And because I was still doubting myself or whatnot. And then two, was actually exactly what I needed to realign me with this path. And now I have a multi-six-figure business. So that was a massive failure. And what I thought in my mind and in my logical sense, like, this is a massive failure. Like, how could have you messed up this bad? And it actually was the very silver lining that led me into the path that I am right now. So whatever is happening, even if it seems impossible, even if you're like, I'm in the riptide, what the heck is going on with my life? You know, the biggest thing that I can tell you is like, let go and trust. Trust the journey. It is there to help you really move into a deeper sense of self and to really understand yourself. Try not to grasp, you know, try to really listen to your gut. Right. This is the moment that I say in Saturn return that we're really invited to trust ourselves instead of what society has taught us, instead of what mom and dad are saying, instead of what other people are going to think. I want you to really trust yourself, you know, and so those years in this alignment is to make sure that you're self-caring, make sure you're taking care of your mental health, make sure that you're taking care of your body and your essence, and it's going to be okay. Right. You have to know that this journey is serving you and showing up for you, because when you're coming out of the other end of this, it's going to be very clear. Don't try to figure it out with your head, you know, just it's like a current that wants to take you to this new destination. And the more that we grasp on and we're like, why is this happening? I don't want to do this. Just let go. Let yourself be in the vortex. Let yourself be in that up level. It doesn't, like, everyone in the spiritual community is always like, alignment. Let me tell you something. Alignment is scary, right? It is very scary.
So scary.
It looks like everything is falling apart. It's going to look like your entire group, you know, friends might change, your job might change, your career might change. You might be like, whoa, I really need to take care of my health, my mental health, my physical stability, whatever it is. But ultimately, it's there to serve you, and it's there to remind you of what you're really meant to be doing. So as you come into that space of alignment with your Saturn return, just know that if it feels chaotic, you got this. The biggest thing for you to do during this time is to tend to yourself, tend to your wealth, tend to your health, right? And any way that you can do that is just really allow for yourself to come to ritual, to come into those quiet spaces and just say, it's okay, and go with that gut response. Let go of what you think things should be like and allow for the universe to move you into that, you know, space of who you are and who you came here to be.
Thank you so much for that. I've truly been going through it within the last week. And I felt like I had all of these. I just got back from a trip to Miami, Florida, and it was a crazy trip. And so I came home and I like literally was like, what am I doing with my life? You know, it was like all of these realizations were coming and I'm like, I have to fix all of these right now. Like there's like 10 things came to my mind. And I'm like, okay, I need to take care of this relationship. I need to do this. I need to speak my mind on this. And it was like, you kind of giving me permission to be like, slow down. It's going to be fine. Like take it as it comes, because I think I'm a Capricorn with an Aries moon. I want things to happen now.
100%. And you want them in this order, right?
In this order. Yes, exactly. And so I love that so much. Thank you for that, because it gives me that, like, just allow it, like ride the wave. Like you said, it's going to be fine. I really needed to hear that for sure.
Yeah. I think we all need to hear that sometimes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Truly.
I should take my own advice, you know? Yeah.
It's so true, but it's so much easier to say it than it is to implement it sometimes, especially like as a mentor, as a teacher. It's like, you can see it much easier for others than you can see it for yourself. And so sometimes it's like just getting someone to mirror it back to you is really powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
So Camille, what exciting things are coming up for you? What's on the horizon? Are you focusing on anything in your business that you want the babes listening to know about?
Yeah, mostly for Vital Mystic and the platform that I lead. There's definitely still going to be lots of ritual and astrology, but we're starting to anchor and do a lot more programs that are business centered and helping women empower themselves with business as well. So that's where my focus is right now. I just launched my first business energetics group coaching program, and really kind of helping people just move with kind of like those three factors that I talked about: strategy, astrological timing, and energetics, and to really create what they want in this world, and to really just like reprogram our beliefs and our narrative on women being wealthy and what it means to be wealthy in this world, because we definitely need more women wealthy, right? So ultimately, that's what we're focusing on this year. I'll definitely have other workshops and things like that. Right now, I have various ritual series and courses for people that want to learn a little bit more about that, or come into the group coaching, or my one-to-ones are also open as well for business coaching. But ultimately, I think we're always growing and expanding. And it's just, you know, the Vital Mystic was seeded as an empowerment platform for women. And however I can inspire that, even if you just come by and you're around for the beautiful rituals, or you're there for the astrological insights and kind of just learning little tidbits here and there, ultimately, I want you to feel empowered. So come through and come to my platform on @vital.mystic on Instagram or TikTok, and love to have you there as well and be part of the community.
That's awesome. And I will have all of Camille's info in the show notes. That way you babes can check out all of her offerings. Definitely binge her Instagram reels. I'm telling you, you won't regret it. It's amazing and so inspiring. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Camille. This conversation was just much needed for me. And I think it's going to support so many women listening to start to incorporate these rituals and to start really like taking time to connect their body and their mind. This work is just so important. And so I'm grateful for what you do and for sharing your gifts with the world, because they inspire so many people.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a joy and such a pleasure to talk to you. And finally, I'm glad we got to do this. And yeah, wishing you the best during Saturn return and so much success in your business and all your endeavors.
Thank you, babes, so much for joining me today. If you loved this podcast, I would really appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star rating and review. It really helps the podcast to be discovered by even more amazing humans who could benefit from this work and from healing and a heal. And if you screenshot your rating and review and send it to ashlintorydance@gmail.com or send it to me on Instagram, I will send you a free burlesque workshop as a gift. Also, don't forget to follow along on Instagram @hi.vibe.heals to stay up to date on all the heals, burlesque, spirituality, and empowering content that your soul desires.